You want to tell people about you? Should we talk about your kidneys? Do you want a snack? Yeah? Okay. I can get you a snack. We have like half a can left from his food last night. He loves this stuff. I usually add a little more water. I like to add more water than his dad. So he kind of gets soup. Where do you want to eat? You want to eat right here, or do you want to eat on the table? Come here. Here, I'll move this stuff. I've had my cat Roger now for a little over 3 years, and I feel like a lot has happened. There was a huge learning curve, and I thought that this may help someone, because it definitely would have helped me if I was going through this. I'm from Illinois, and then I went and moved to Philadelphia for med school, and it was during COVID. It was in summer of 2020, so it got pretty lonely, and I also had a mouse issue in my apartment. With those two things combined, I was like, I need to get a cat because the cat will definitely help me. So I went to the same shelter back at home where my family had adopted our dog, Miho, and found Roger. At the time when I went, Roger's name was Beef. So I got Beef. Actually what had happened was he was sick at the time and had some sort of viral URI that they thought that's what he had. So I actually had to wait a few days until he was cleared by the vet to go. Roger first came home with me in December of 2020, and he went to Philadelphia with me. He really traveled with me everywhere. For the first year, I would say everything was good. I always made sure to have him follow up with the vet, and have all his appointments. Do you smell your food, sir? Yeah? You wanna come up? Here. So everything was good, but he was pretty gunky. Like, he had all this dark eye gunk people had said was his normal, and so I kind of just assumed and believed them. And then I guess about a year after I got him, he loves this food. About a year after I got him, I was still in Philadelphia at the time, but he had had some urinary complaints, I guess, or symptoms. He was frequently using the litter box a lot. I brought him to the emergency vet at the time. He ended up going for like 2 visits, like 2 separate visits. He was diagnosed with a UTI at the time. He was given like a ureter, muscle relaxer, antibiotics, pain meds, which made him really zonked. And that was kind of the end of it. So that was probably December, January of 2021. And then I moved out to California to finish medical school. And that's kind of when everything started happening. We made that cross-country trip to California, and he had still been doing well, but still had the eye gunk. But otherwise was pretty much fine. I didn't notice anything abnormal. It was October of 2022. He was hospitalized for a week. Kind of now reflecting on the week leading up to his hospitalization, the only thing he gave us, because I have photos from like the day before he went to the hospital and he looked normal, he vomited twice, like in that week beforehand, and he had been a cat that maybe vomited every once in a while before, so I didn't really think much of it, but that was the only sign he gave us. And I just remember waking up that Monday morning getting ready for work, and Roger is normally very loving and loves to follow me around when I get ready, and he was just like sitting in his chair and he didn't get up, and so that made me concerned. I told Graham, like, hey, keep an eye on him today. Like, I don't know why he is acting really tired. I went to work, I came home, and he always greets me when I come through the door, and he did not greet me. He, at that point, really wasn't eating anything. We had tried putting treats like right up to his face when he was sitting in the chair, and that's when I knew something was really wrong. I'd gotten health insurance at that point, so that was one thing. So I would definitely recommend getting health insurance for your pets because it saved so much money. We had called around, basically determined that the best thing for him was to go to the emergency room. They took an x-ray of his stomach, and that's when they found that his right kidney was abnormally smaller than his left, and his left was actually larger, showing that it had been compensating for some time for the smaller right kidney. They had also seen that he had had some strictures in his ureter on the right side, which could have been due to a stone or like obstruction, some sort of congenital thing, but basically he was not doing well. And so he ended up staying in the hospital for a week. He was actually transferred over to a different hospital, but the first hospital that he was at, they had wanted him to have surgery and get an artificial ureter placed. So it's called a sub placement, S-U-B. They had estimated it would be like $10,000 to $12,000 for one side sub placement. So that was something we were thinking about, but then their surgeon wasn't in that week, so we had transferred him over to a different hospital, Oakvet, which absolutely love. He follows there now. And basically what they did was they reevaluated the whole situation, and they told me that obviously getting the surgery done could restore some function in his right kidney, but his labs were all showing that he had some infection too. So they were thinking because of some blockage or something like that, his right kidney was showing like a pyelonephritis. They didn't think that now would have been a good time for surgery anyways because of the infection risk. So while it was still on the table at the time, it was something that we decided to not go through with just because they didn't advise it and their surgeon didn't advise it. So he stayed overnight just to get more IV fluids and antibiotics, I believe, and then was discharged home. The whole hospital bill was over $10,000, but he has Healthy Paws insurance that we had gotten. It's a $250 deductible, but after that they cover up to 80% of all emergency fees with no cap. So that helped us a lot. But he was able to come home with us after that, like 5th night in the hospital. He seemed a little tired, but definitely he had an infection that had cleared or was clearing, and I think he was discharged home on antibiotics. And I remember asking at that time if they had recommended him to follow up with anyone, but really, yeah, Roger, you remember that? Yeah, but they didn't really recommend anything. No special diet, no new medication other than the antibiotics, no real change. Based on his numbers, they had told me at the time that his kidneys were basically showing signs of chronic damage, and so the chronic damage, they were labeling him as having like at least like a chronic kidney disease stage 2. So I really wanted him to follow up with a specialist. So that was in October. The earliest appointment they had was December. What I ended up doing then was my own crazy research. I was about to make my own food for him, but I basically was looking at kidney-friendly, over-the-counter foods. And I didn't even know if it really helped. I was just looking for things that had low phosphorus because I knew that that was something that could be helpful for cats with chronic kidney disease. Then he has his first internal medicine specialist appointment in December of 2022. At that point, she was like, you know, some cats just have kidney disease, you know, let's check a few things to rule out what it could be, but I don't know if any of these would come back abnormal. We're like, okay, sounds good. And she does this one test, this ionized calcium, which he had never had before. And so we get all the blood drawn, and I remember leaving that appointment. We were less than 5 minutes out, and she calls us back and she's like, hi, can you turn around? Like, you need to come back. And so we come back, and that ionized calcium was super elevated. High end of normal is 1.32 and his was 1.75 on that first visit. So at that point she was like, okay, his calcium's really high. She was really worried at that point too because we were going into the weekend, and she really wanted to start him on a medication to help lower the calcium, but before doing that she needed to run other panels to make sure it wasn't something with this parathyroid hormone or it wasn't a malignancy, and you can't start the medications until you get those drawn. And because those are processed, I think, only in Michigan, like the timing was all whack. So that weekend was actually super difficult for us because we had to give him subcutaneous fluids at home on our own. Once a day we had to give him like 100 cc's of fluid under his skin. I had personally never like put in an IV or done anything like that before. I'd given injections and stuff as a student, but this was pretty different also because of course he's not going to like cold fluid going into his skin. So we had to do that for the whole weekend, which was really difficult, but definitely helped him stay hydrated and helped avoid a hospital fee. Monday comes around, we get the labs drawn. Once the labs are drawn and in process, then she started him on Alendronate, which is a bisphosphonate medication, and that helps lower calcium. So he was started on that, 5 milligrams once a week, which he's still on that medication to this day. She also recommended this special diet, so I have a can here. It's a prescription food, but she had said that some studies had shown that this was really helpful for lowering calcium. So it is the Royal Canin or Renal Support Early Consult, and we have the loaf sauce, which she loves, and then we also have the dry food version of it, but this is pretty expensive. So it comes in 24 packs, so 24 packs of the 3-ounce cans, and each of those 24 packs are about $60, and he eats 2.5 to 3 cans a day. So you can probably do the math. It's very expensive, but she's like, this is the one food that has been kind of suggested to help with cats like Roger. So that's what we started him on, and that is what he has eaten since that appointment. We've gone back and forth since then. Like, we were trying to wean him off the Alendronate, and then he had lost his appetite one day. We brought him back and his calcium had gone back up, so we put him back on the weekly dose of Alendronate, which he's been on, and his last appointment was in December of 2023, and his labs looked pretty good then. His calcium was, I think, 1.32, so that very high end of normal. So I purposely scheduled it so that it was the day before we were supposed to give his Alendronate, so I feel safe knowing that his calcium is always in a safe blood level zone. Now he's scratching. Are you scratching, sir? Oh, and his creatinine is pretty stable. It's at 2.5 right now, so it's definitely elevated. I'm not sure, I forget what the high normal range is, but kind of since the hospitalization, like, his creatinine has always ranged from like 2.2 at its best to 2.5, so he definitely has some signs of kidney damage. The surgery, I guess, so surgery had come up initially. We had revisited that, and I think after talking with the specialist, it would maybe give him a year or two more, but I think kind of reflecting on that and seeing like how much more like doctor's appointments he would need, it wasn't worth it, and that we'd rather him have a good quality of life and kind of just live it out to the fullest with his kidney food and his meds and all that. So I think with his kidney disease, it was something that he was diagnosed early with. He was diagnosed when he was only 5. It is something where the vet, in her best judgment, is probably thinking he can live to his 10th or 11th birthday. So he's 6 now, still thriving. His numbers look good, but it's definitely something to keep in mind too. I think overall, kind of reflecting back, I'm happy we didn't go through with the surgery. His eye gunk has definitely gotten better. I would say like his appetite and energy levels have always been good, so I haven't really noticed a change there, but he does love this food, which is good. Yeah, so from here, like, I think the plan is to keep him on that diet food, keep him on the Alendronate, which he takes once a week and loves, because even though he has to be fasted for 12 hours, we give it in butter, and he loves butter. This is per the recommendation of our vet. So he loves butter time, and that is good for him because he has to do it once a week and is pretty good about it. So yeah, I mean, he's just hanging out. It's my little Roger. Yeah, you're my little Roger. You want your food? What do you want to say to everyone? You want to show everyone your chair? He's so into shadows lately. Roger, do you want to tell everyone what your official diagnosis is? Yeah? Are you telling people? He says he has idiopathic hypercalcemia. Isn't that right? It means his calcium levels can get a little high unless he has butter time and eats his yummy food. He's like really into shadows. So he has hypercalcemia and we don't know why, but he's doing well. You want to say bye?